you may not think naturally. Most people think of like Houston Methodist when they think of medicine, but around that and supporting that, maybe because of that, you have, all of this, all of these angles that are being created. And so, Tech Rodeo, medicine here in Houston, as we're well known for, but here are two entrepreneurs that are going about this in a different way. Jason Melton, CEO of 2nd MD, who just sold his company here for $500 million, and has been building for the last 10 years here in Houston. Correct?
Yeah, 8.
8.
Well, the company's been 10, yeah. So I think you know this, but Clint Phillips is the founder. I came in when it was still pre-revenue.
Yeah. But you're the CEO, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And that's close enough. 2 years in, you're you're close enough.
There still was no money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. And then Taft, you're a high school student here of Kincaid that has started a business during COVID around testing, and you've been moving, taking your mobile testing. What do you call it? Lab?
It is a mobile COVID-19 testing unit.
A mobile COVID-19 testing unit around. And so, getting these two entrepreneurs coming at health and entrepreneurship from different angles, we're going to try to ask you different questions about kind of what you've learned, what you've experienced, and then tie it all back to answer the core question: Is Houston, are people doing interesting tech things in Houston? It's not just Austin, not just Dallas, whatever. And then, what about Houston that, what is it about Houston that has been helpful for you in your business? And, like I said, it's pre-recorded, so anything that you say, if you want to tweak afterwards, we're ready to, we can tweak that and cut it out or shift it. So this is just free flowing and natural as you guys want to do. So.
That's great.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you guys need anything before we get started?
No, I'm good.
Awesome. We're good to go? Okay, sweet. Well, Tech Rodeo, we're really glad that we're here today. I'm sitting with two amazing entrepreneurs from Houston. Jason Melton, the CEO of 2nd MD, who's been building a kind of telemedicine tech company here in Houston for the last 10 years. And Taft is a high school student from Kincaid who has started a mobile COVID testing unit and during the pandemic, obviously, and has been learning a lot of lessons here in Houston. Guys, I'm so glad that you're able to join us at Tech Rodeo. We're here at the Cloudbreak office, actually, here on the west side of town, and excited to explore what technology's been like in your lives and in businesses. And Jason, as you've built your business over many years, and Taft, as you're getting started, how those two things relate. So appreciate you guys.
Thank you for having me. I'm just glad to be here and fortunate that y'all invited me on here.
Yeah. Taft, starting with you, you're a high school student, and finals are coming up. What was it like balancing school and this new business?
Well, I'd be lying if I were to say it weren't pretty difficult trying to find that balance between business, working, and school. But at the end of the day, I'm a student first and a businessman second, and so when it comes down to it, I'm going to finish my schoolwork and then make sure everything is taken care of at the mobile site. But it's pretty difficult, but it's doable as long as I have good time management and I'm communicating with my teachers, my staff, and everybody that's involved.
Well, I'm sure they're rooting for you and excited to see you do good things. When you got going, obviously you go through some hard things and some struggles, some things you don't necessarily anticipate, and adding on top of that, the demands of school. What have you found that you've learned about yourself in this process?
I've learned that I operate pretty well under pressure. There were points in times where we were backed up with business, a lot of calls, but not enough. We only have one van to go to various houses. On top of those calls, I've had tests and essays, but I can keep a pretty cool, calm, level head under a lot of pressure, and I didn't think that I could, but I learned through trial and tribulation that when it comes down to it, I can get the job done as long as I stay calm and keep confidence in myself.
Well, I can't wait to see what you do next. Jason, you started, you joined an early stage company 2 years after they got started here. What was it like getting telemedicine started in Houston? Did you find Houston helpful as a breeding ground for your company? And that was some years ago. So what have you learned since then?
Yeah, when we started connecting people to top medical specialists by video, this was before FaceTime. So it was early days, and most people thought, that sounds really great. So does a rocket ship. We don't really need that, but maybe someday. And but Houston was just a wonderful place for us to really build this business for a number of reasons. Number one, we decided against taking institutional capital, and we worked with a lot of family offices and high net worth individuals and investors. These are business leaders in their own sectors, and they were able to give us a lot of wisdom, and they just really wanted to help. And so they were able to not only help us understand the important things about how to measure your business and how to get funding and how to use it wisely, but Houston also it's the largest medical center in the world, and as we've grown our business, a lot of our staff are clinicians, and there's a deep reservoir to draw from. We happen to be an employer of choice, which is great. That means it's very competitive to hire nurses, for example, and other clinicians in town, and but there's so many here that it's been a great support as we've grown our team.
Well, it's a super exciting journey. Do you have a favorite section? Did you like the early days? Did you kind of like the momentum of that early scale, or as you were approaching the exit, like which part do you resonate personally with the most? I've
really enjoyed it all. I think there's a time in every season, in every business, and it's really building a business is like the life cycle of an infant to a toddler to a child to a teenager to a young adult and then to an adult. And I've enjoyed it personally in my own walk, every step of that journey, and I enjoyed that with the business as well. So there are certain things that you can do as a much smaller, younger company. The camaraderie of a really tight-knit team trying to do amazing things. There's a lot of fun with that, and I will certainly miss some of those days. At the same time, there's so many hardships and struggles that you've been able to overcome as you grow and grow, and it's a lot of fun now as well. So I'd say I enjoyed it all.
That sounds pretty exciting. Taft, what was the moment that you said, okay, this needs to be done, and I am the person to do it?
So when I became an EMT this summer in Corpus Christi, I came back to Houston and I decided to take COVID-19 test. And when I got to the local clinic, I was met with the line that snaked around the building. I had to wait 2 hours to get in and 2 weeks for my test results. And while I was quarantining in that 2-week period, I thought there has to be a better way to get these tests out to people. And I said it would be great if we could take the test to the patient. And that's when the light bulb went on in my head. And that's when I sought help to my father and I asked family, friends for money to get the business started. And I got the idea to get a van and take the test to the patient.
That's certainly more advanced than the business I ran when I was in high school, which was cutting some lawns around me. Were you ever intimidated in stepping into something that's clearly beyond that kind of a venture?
I was intimidated at first, but then I realized that the necessity for a business that can go to the patient is very big enough to where my timidness, I can't allow that to hold me back in any way possible. And so while I was a little flustered and afraid at the beginning, but I realized pretty quickly that this needs to be done and I'm the person to do it. So there's no room for error or being afraid.
Just go out and get it. I love it. Jason, when you were first starting, you were coming on as employee number?
Really early. It was a small number.
Pretty early. And in the early days before FaceTime, you're getting an idea going. Did you have problems kind of recruiting the talent that you needed, and how did you overcome the more development side of things while also kind of pushing forward on the business front?
Well, there were so many challenges and obstacles. How do you get the top doctors in the country, in the world, to want to give you their time? How do you make the technology to work? How do you convince a Fortune 500 business to let you serve all of their people? How do you get records quickly? There's so many things to work through, but I think some of the challenges with building the team, in terms of the management team and the talent, we were just really blessed. We were very fortunate. Clint Phillips, the founder, very charismatic, inspirational leader. I enjoy people and like to be around them. And so we were able to pull together a team that frankly was built for scale. The team that we have at 2nd.MD is capable of running a much larger business than we have. And I think that speaks to the fact that people are drawn to the mission. In fact, Houston Business Journal and Houston Chronicle ran contests last year, of which we were one of the top workplaces to work in Houston, but also we were rated #1 in terms of the place that employees were most connected to the mission of the business. And so I think that's really one of the big reasons why we were able to build such a great team, is people were attracted to other high-performing, talented people who saw this huge problem out there in healthcare, this $3 trillion industry in the U.S. alone that really needs revamping and reforming, and they're excited about the opportunity to be a part of that.
Well, that's certainly inspiring. When you were going about these challenges, obviously you had a career before joining 2nd.MD. Did you find the prior experience and the experience in 2nd.MD to be very relatable? Did you have like a sharp difference?
They were very relatable. Yeah. I was involved in a number of different businesses, started out doing investment banking, then I was in energy, and I was a part of a number of different businesses in several sectors before 2nd.MD. I learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes. I was sitting here wondering when Taft was talking, I don't know if one of the questions I wanted to ask you, if that's okay, Mark.
Yeah, of course.
Was this your first attempt at being an entrepreneur, or were there other previous attempts? Because if this was your first attempt and you succeeded, that's fantastic. I failed many, many times before we finally succeeded. So.
Yeah.
I've had like small businesses like mowing lawns and washing cars, but this was my first attempt at something what I call special, like a large scale business that can touch a lot of different people and things like that.
That's great. Well, you've got a better track record than I had early on.
Thank you.
I think part of the journey of entrepreneurship in general is the risk, right? You make a decision, you jump out, and you get going, and as a nature of doing something that's never been done before, you're always going to run into those headwinds. As you thought about your career and thought about the opportunity at 2nd.MD, was it just part of you that just said, I've got to try again, I've got to dig deep and go all in? Or was it really, the opportunity set seemed even better than the ones that you had experienced before?
It's a great question. For me personally, I was at a point of transition. I had been working with a serial entrepreneur here in town. I was his junior partner, and he'd passed away unexpectedly at a young age. And as we were going through unwinding all that business, I decided I was trying to figure out what to do next. I had a lot of interesting offers from folks, but I really wanted to hear clearly from the Lord. So I took a sabbatical, and I went to a theological library in town, and Monday through Friday, like it was my job, I just read the Bible cover to cover, and was really pouring into that and praying and trying to figure out what to do next. And through that, the last deal that my former business partner and I had gotten involved with was 2nd.MD. We took an early stake in that business, and Clint, the founder, was really wanting me to help him come and run the business, and I just felt called to do that, and came on board and haven't regretted it a day since.
Well, that's pretty inspiring. I mean, kind of from Taft, where you're looking at right now, you did a first round capital raise, and you kind of got the concept off and going. Like, what are some of the numbers? What does your business look like and feel like right now?
Right now we are getting about 20 to 30 calls a day. So we'll test either businesses or homes, but the number of calls we get is about 20 to 30. We're looking to expand that through the number of vans we have. Right now we have one van, but we're looking to get more than one. That way we can help a lot more people and extend our reach to a lot more individuals and businesses.
Excellent. And are you, after school, are you getting in the van and driving to these companies, or how do the mechanics work actually? After
school, sometimes I'll get in the van, but most of the time I do a lot of paperwork, administrative stuff. I make sure that employees have the correct hours, that they're getting paid, and that working conditions are ideal to providing like optimal testing conditions.
Yeah. Well, you're in the early stage of a business, you often have like an ideal of what it's supposed to be like, and then as you start running down the road, you run into something you didn't plan for, didn't anticipate, and you've got a lot of advisors around you. You know, what's one thing that you have hit that really caused you to think about work differently, maybe think about the problem set differently? What was one of those roadblocks for you?
When we first started testing, a problem we found pretty quickly was that there was nobody to test. We weren't really testing anybody in the beginning. Our numbers were maybe 2 to 3 calls if we were lucky. And so that's when we started reaching out to news outlets, talking to friends and family, and doing a lot of different things to get the word out there about the business, to increase our numbers and make sure that we could make sure people knew what was going on so that they knew to call us.
Yeah. Well, I think that sounds like it's working, going from 2 to 3 to about 30, you said?
Yes, sir.
So that's pretty exciting. Jason, going back to you, just thinking about, so as you were growing and scaling, hiring becomes a key part, and training becomes a key part of taking something that is working and growing. When did you really hit that scaling phase? You weren't in this building for very long. So where were you before, and did you have problems finding that office space? Did you have problems finding the people? Like, what was that kind of scale like?
We, about 7 years ago, we were in a very small, really, if I back up further than that, 8-9 years ago, we were in a little strip center, in a tiny little, like really one office room. And then we grew into a place over by the Galleria, and then we took over another, basically subleased a space that was great in the Uptown Park area. And there we were able to grow, but we got to the point where we went from 5 employees to 10 to 50 to 100. We're now at 150, 200 employees, and we had to take space on 4 different floors, and it was just not very efficient for our folks to meet everybody. And so we were excited about the opportunity to come together, all be in one floor. And as soon as we decided we were going to do that, we realized, oh wait, we're growing even faster than we thought, so we're going to need a second floor. So we're still not on the same floor anymore, but it's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have, and you're in a wonderful building. We're glad to be your upstairs neighbors here.
Yes.
As the business was clearly heading towards an exit, and no close is ever certain until the check's clear, but when did you know that you were heading down the road to kind of the end of the startup part of the journey, and what was that, dealing with that realization personally, and also kind of weighing kind of the future and what an exit would actually mean for you and the team?
Yeah. So the board and myself have been talking about the different opportunities for years. Should we just grow this thing forever and just continue to serve as many people as we can? We were regularly getting, I would probably get 3 or 4 calls, emails a week from people wanting to take an investment in our business or to acquire us. We didn't put ourselves out there on the market, but there was enough activity in the marketplace that we knew that in order for us to continue to innovate and to grow at the scale that we needed to grow and to have the kind of impact that we believe that we need to be able to have, we needed to be a part of an organization that had a really long-term vision. And our investors were great, but they'd been in for several years, and they were a bit mixed in terms of, it'd be great to go ahead and get my investment back, or let's do this for the next 20 years. And so we really needed an aligned shareholder base with that. This summer, we weren't in the market looking to sell. I thought we had a couple more years of growth that I really wanted to go prove out before we decided to go through a process. We were approached unsolicited by a company. Turned out to be a great company. Seemed like a really wonderful fit. And so we entered into discussions and went through the due diligence process and wound up making that publicly known in January, where we were selling to Accolade. They purchased us on March 3rd, and it's been fabulous. Everything that we hoped it would be, it's been. The team, the culture, the alignment for the future. And I would say, I truly believe that if we would have wanted to go put ourselves up for sale, we could have gotten 20 to 30% more valuation. But we chose to pick the partner that we thought was going to be the best long-term home for our people. Yeah. And really, glad that we made that choice. I think it was the right decision for our people and for our clients and those that we're going to continue to serve.
Well, I mean, just reflecting on my own story, and we were obviously much younger, the scale was much smaller. We were in the 15 employee range as we were going through it. But as we were running the business, we were getting a similar, getting the inbounds and trying to decide always, like, are we doing this? Are we doing that? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? And we found, for very similar reasons, we found a partner that we felt would really kind of take the platform and really grow it. So I certainly understand that. Post exit, did you feel like you were kind of floating around for at least a month? Like I didn't even feel like I could have a conversation with somebody right afterwards. Just the stress level change from being totally responsible and running something to all of a sudden, like you've reached a milestone. You got to reset and reload. What was that part like?
It's again, that's part of, you asked earlier, what part did I like the best? I've enjoyed them all, and I truly mean that, and I've enjoyed this phase as well. This phase for me is more about helping make sure that our next group of leaders, next generation of leaders, they're well trained, they're groomed, they're excited and inspired about continuing to grow the business moving forward, that the business that bought us understands our team, understands our business and people, and that our people fit in well, they land well, and they get situated to thrive. And so that's an exciting part for me. It's almost like being an advisor to help the next wave of people come up and do things. And so I've enjoyed that.
You gonna be sticking around Houston?
I'll be sticking around in Houston for a while now. Who knows? I take everything one day at a time.
That's good. That's good. I think Houston's been really good spot to land on our end, and we've been excited to continue building here at Taft. As you think about what's next for you, and you're building a business at this point, when do you graduate from Kincaid, and where do you think you might go from there?
I graduate on May 21st. Yeah. And I plan on attending Columbia University next fall.
Awesome. So do you have have you seen this like the signing day videos that people are doing for academics now? Are you going to do one of those?
I plan on having a signing day event soon, but I'm not sure exactly what date that's going to be.
Yeah. So are you going to try to continue the business while you're at Columbia too, or are you going to let it morph, or are you going to kind of look at your opportunities? Like, what are your thoughts there?
I plan to take it slow and look at the opportunities and take them as they arise. What I'd like to do is look for a larger company that'd be willing to negotiate something with mine, a company that has similar goals as mine own. That way I can help to create something bigger than the sum of our parts. Yeah. I think that our mobile ability to go out to people's homes is very valuable. Of course, I probably have a little bias because I own the company, but I still think that value shouldn't be overlooked, and I think that if it were possible to merge or morph with a larger company that would utilize our resources very well, that'd be the main goal.
It sounds like a lot of fun. As you are thinking about studying, does this process change what you would have studied in school, or do you think you're on the same track you were before getting this company going?
It changed it a little bit. I'm a lot more interested in studying entrepreneurship now, but I still, like, in my core, really want to practice medicine, and I think I'm still gonna focus on the pre-med track at Columbia and focus on becoming a doctor in medicine.
Well, certainly a worthy pursuit. But there is a reality. Once you get the entrepreneurial kick, it could be a hard one to shed. So
there's some great entrepreneurial doctors.
Yes, there are, absolutely. They're not mutually exclusive. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So Jason, as you've kind of worked, you went through the stages as a company, and you had to get buy-in from a lot of people. Did you find that you were, knock, 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 go? Was it, okay, knock, all right, this is interesting, let's flesh it out, let's kind of talk it through, and then let's see if it makes sense? Or was your kind of discovering and building that credibility and then using that to then create something, was it a mixture of those two?
It was. We failed so many different ways. We learned so many different ways of how not to recruit the top doctors. We failed 100 different times before we finally figured out how to inspire them to be a part of what we were doing. And in every aspect of our business, there was a lot of that. How do you go and get medical records in a couple of days when the whole industry is taking a month to do it? I mean, there were lots of different things we had to do, but one of the hardest things was really acquiring the customers. We would go in and meet with a CEO, and they'd say, "This sounds really interesting." Go meet with my head of HR, and the head of HR would say, "This sounds great. Why don't you go meet the head of benefits?" And the head of benefits would say, "I'm really busy right now. If you could show me the results of a client my size for the last 3 years, I'll sign up tomorrow." And we're like, "Great, you want to be the first?" I mean, there were so many meetings that I thought this is a slam dunk, we're going to do it. It went so well, and then it just stalled out because the buyers of our business are very risk averse,
Sure.
and nobody really wanted to be first. And what we found, like in acquiring the top physicians in the country to be part of our network, is the clients as well. So one of our first big clients here in town was Waste Management. Then we had Texas A&M University System, Morgan Stanley, Chevron. And then as these great brands started building on, others could look at that and say, okay, there's some other great companies that have a lot of resources to vet things. They're saying wonderful things about this group. It doesn't feel so risky. Let's go ahead and take a shot on it. And the more that we had those opportunities and fulfilled all those expectations, really exceeded expectations, then by word of mouth it grew. And so this last year we added over 100 new clients, and it's one of those flywheel effects that. Sure. But it takes some time to get going, and it usually takes longer than you expect. I believe that in business we overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. And you got to keep struggling through that if you are going to be part of making change in the business world.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine. So as you think about Houston as a city, what do you think and this question is really for both of you, what do you think is unique about Houston that maybe gave you an opportunity you wouldn't have expected or didn't really see? What do you think Houston is building toward as you look around you and you kind of see the companies that are starting? Do you feel like you're one of many? Do you feel like you don't have that visibility? Like, how do you feel about the city in general?
Well, I love Houston. Been here since '99, since college, and I think that some of the aspects of Houston that make it great for a business like ours. So we don't see a lot of companies in our space coming out of Houston. Sure. In fact, while there's some great innovation in energy, great innovation in healthcare, technology-enabled digital health, most of that comes from the West Coast, some from the East Coast. And so when people would learn about our business, they'd ask me where are we located. I'd say Houston, Texas. They'd look at me like I misspoke. They expected us to be from San Francisco, which is where most of the innovative, companies in our space are based out of. I think some of the advantages of being here, there's so much money being thrown at these startups out in California and in other places that, frankly, I think it makes them sloppy. They have this really expensive rent, all these really rich employee benefits, and they sit around and they just waste a lot of money and don't get anything done. Here in Houston, you have very seasoned business leaders that are willing to back a promising team with some crazy ideas. They want to do great things and take on big challenges. They also want to make sure that you're fundamentally sound. And profit is important here.
Yeah.
It's not so important out in California, but it is important here. And I
Yeah.
think that makes you stronger and more disciplined.
One of the things I like most about Houston is our community. The community has helped me a lot in terms of getting the business up off the ground, and also distribution and allowing me to give back to the community. Part of the reason I started this business was so that I could give back to the community from which I came. And I received a lot of help from organizations like the NAACP, local businesses around my hometown, Pearland. And I'd like to say that Houston's tight-knit community is what makes it, in my opinion, special. And it's really what has allowed my business to come up off the ground and take flight.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would just add to that is the companies that are based here. I spoke a moment ago about how hard it was in the early days to get clients. But we found that the vast majority of our early clients, even though we're based across the country, were here in Texas, and so many of them in Houston, partly because we're here and that's where many of our investors are from.
Yeah.
But I think partly because the companies here, they're willing to take some more calculated risk and be visionaries and go do some cool things. So.
No, I think that home field advantage that you're kind of speaking of is not to be overlooked. As you guys look at the media and just are participating in life here, you're constantly hearing stories of companies from the West or the East Coast thinking about moving to Texas, thinking about moving. If you were in charge of recruitment for something like that, what would you emphasize to those clients that they may not necessarily appreciate about Houston in particular?
Well, the people are great. I mean, Houston people are fabulous, and I think America is the most generous nation in the world, and Houston, just by the stats, is the most generous city in America. So that means we're the most generous in the world, and I think that is not just in our giving, but in how we treat each other, right? And so it's a wonderful culture. It's very much you don't have to come from where your education, I've got a great education, Taft's going to go get a great education, but that's not really what made us successful, right? The ability to come in, if you have a great idea and you're willing to work hard and you're honest and you take care of people, then you're going to succeed here. And of course, not having a state income tax helps.
Yeah.
Great weather helps. There's all sorts of good reasons.
Especially when you go through an exit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now just kind of focusing on the more entrepreneurial aspects and just thinking about your journey as it relates to what you've learned yourselves and what you would want to share with somebody that's thinking about taking the journey of entrepreneurship kind of behind you. If you were to distill your experiences into, a core essence, what would that be, and what do you say to somebody that says, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting something going"? Taft, why don't we start with you?
I'd say that it was very difficult, but I believe that it is through which fire people are forged, and I tell them to just do it. If you have an idea that you're truly passionate about, that you genuinely believe is a good idea that will help tons of people, there are people around you who are willing to help you and who are happy to help you. And you shouldn't be afraid to reach out to others, find as much help as you can, and to make that dream, that business, a reality. Because at the end of the day, we're people. We just want to see one another succeed.
Beautiful.
I think it takes a lot of faith to be an entrepreneur. Faith in yourself, faith in that you're a part of something that's important, and that things are going to work out for the good. And because it is so hard, right? I mean, in fact, I was listening to another entrepreneur who I respect, and he was speaking at MIT, and a bunch of students asked him, "What advice would you give budding entrepreneurs?" And he'd say, his answer was, "Don't do it." Well, I don't think that's the good response, but he just meant it's so hard, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many obstacles to overcome, and you have to have some thick skin and have great faith. But I also think it's important to not take yourself so seriously. Yes, We are doing important things, getting people vaccinated or getting tested to know whether they have the virus or not. That's an important thing. What we do is important. But what I've learned is that people want to do business with people that they enjoy. They need to trust them. They need to believe that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. But they also want to be around people and give their business to people that they enjoy being around. So having a good sense of humor, not taking yourself so seriously, it goes a long way.
No, that's super exciting. Well, as we think about the future of Houston, maybe the future of work, do you see, stepping out more broadly, do you see an opportunity for people to continue to come to a city like Houston and continue to create, continue to start new companies, continue to build technologies here? Do you see that Houston's really kind of part of this wave, or do you really feel like it's too early to tell where this thing's going?
It's a little early to tell how Houston's going to ride that wave compared to cities like Austin and
Sure.
maybe even Dallas. But I think that there's, again, as we talked about, Houston's got a lot of things going for it. The startup community here is growing and strengthening things with like what Tech Rodeo and others are doing to help bring awareness. Something you said earlier about companies out in California now being willing, looking at relocating to Texas, I think is very important, and I think it's really been accelerated because of the whole global pandemic that we just had, forcing people into their home offices where they could work from home, work remotely. At times we explored taking some capital from folks. We walked down Sand Hill lane over in California and Silicon Valley, where you have all these tech investment firms, and some of them were okay if the company was headquartered outside of California, but the majority of them were like, yeah, we see so many different opportunities. We really just want to have the management teams that are right here beside us. And so it was a big deal. If you were headquartered not in Silicon Valley, it was hard to get money from out there. Yeah. I think that's really changing because people have seen how effective they can be in interacting with folks that work remotely. And so I think what that's going to enable to happen is a lot more, not only entrepreneurs being in Texas, but also a lot more key employees working here. Because we have key employees with 2nd.MD, key leaders all across the country that are now connecting virtually and making it work. And I think that genie's out of the bottle.
Well, that would be super exciting. Guys, I really appreciate your time here and look forward to continuing conversations. If somebody wants to reach out, ask you a question, is there a line they can call? Is there an email they can send to? Like what are some ways that people can reach out to you?
Yeah. My email address is jason@second.md, and happy to field any questions.
All right, awesome.
My email is Taft Foley III @gmail.com. It's always open. I check it very often. So if you have a question, just shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to answer.
Guys, well, for both of you, on the verge of a new stage or potential new stage in life, I can't wait to check in on you and see what you're doing in the future, and I really appreciate your time. Tech Rodeo, this has been wonderful, and thank these two guests for coming on board, and looking forward to more. So go out there and be someone.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much.
Taft, it's real nice to meet you, bud.
It's nice meeting you as well.
So you're going to Columbia?
Yes, sir.
Nice.
That's the plan.
I went to Princeton up in New Jersey, and I grew up in a